Hello guys! Have you always wanted to create great looking sites with 3D models, animate them and make users interact with them? My name is Tim and today we'll learn Three.js, starting from the basics to creating this beautiful e-commerce site. The main goal of this course is learning how to add these 3D models with cool bouncing product-changing animation and enabling interaction with the 3D model, so users can play with it and view it from different angles. And all of this by just using plain Three.js. I'll also show you how to achieve the same effect on a mobile, as it requires a slightly different approach. And check out this cool comeback effect when I release the cursor. We will start from some basics and work our way up to this level of Three.js. Pretty cool, right? But that's not all. To make this course comprehensive, we will develop the footer section using React 3 Fiber. It's a library specially designed for React-based frameworks. Let me refresh and check out the animation that you will create today. I'll show you where to find 3D models, how to reformat and optimize them for use on websites, so you can add any model you want to your site. And almost forgot, on top of all of this, we developed this hero section with animated text. The user can scroll until he or she clicks this button over here. It ensures that our model have enough time to load. But when clicked, we go to the catalog, which also features some great animations and our 3D model. After this, we create simple features and review sections very fast, and in the end, we'll add most important part of every e-commerce site, a shopping cart and a payment system, to make the entire site fully functional, so you'll have a project ready for production deployment. This course is entirely beginner-friendly, and I'll try to explain every step along the way. Also, it has no expiration date, because I'll show you how to install the exact same dependency versions, so you won't have trouble with future ones. But if you're confident with Next.js, you can always use the newest versions. I will show you how to do that as well. And before we start, do not forget to comment, save this video and hit the like button. And check out my platform, fiberpulse.com, where you can find various React components and other resources. With that said, let's get started. First of all, we need to create a folder on your desktop called 3D Shop. Make sure it do not have capital letters in the name, and then drag this folder into your VS Code. Sometimes it can ask you whether you trust the author. Click yes, because the author is you. Our course is divided into two parts. In first part, we'll quickly create a layout of our site, including sections like hero, features, reviews and more. And in the second part, we will learn how to work with Three.js and add some cool features and 3D models to our site. If you would like to skip this first part, then you can clone the starter code I provided by the link in the description and jump over to this timestamp. And otherwise, let's go to the TailwindCSS.com. So to do that, in your browser, let's write Tailwind and head to this first link over here, then click Get Started, then choose Frameworks Guides over here and choose Next.js. Then copy this first command over here and go to your VS Code, open a terminal, click New Terminal and paste this command over here. So then we need to rename my project to the dot and backslash in order to create the project in this exact folder. So click Enter. And sometimes it would ask you if you want to create a Next.js application. So you click yes, and then we would like to use TailwindCSS, so click yes. Then we don't want to use CRC folder. Then we want to use app router, and we do not want to customize our default import alias. So click no, wait a bit, So we successfully created our application. Then you do not need to use this command because you already created a project in our folder. Then we need to copy this command over here and paste it in our terminal. Click Enter. Next, copy this command and paste in our terminal. So like this. Then we need to make sure that our TailwindCSS config has this over here. So head out to your Tailwind config.js, and in our case we do not have this. So just copy it and paste it in here. We can save it and close our Tailwind config.js. And also we need to check if our global CSS have these three commands over here. So go to app folder, then open global CSS. And as you can see, we have these commands over here, but if you do not, then just copy them and paste in the top. Now we can save, and also let's delete everything we have in this global.css. We will add something a little bit later. After this, we need to go to our GitHub starter code, so link in the description. And in here, let's head out to our snippets and open this package.json. So in this package.json, we have all the versions that I use currently, and you can just copy it and replace your package.json if you want to use all the same dependencies and do not have any troubles. So save this, and then in terminal, let's write the command called npm install. Click Enter, wait a bit, and all packages that we will be using is added. So what we will be using, it's Framer Motion for motion components, then React Fast Marquee for review section, React Icons, and Three.js for our 3D models. And if you want to use a newest version, you can always run npm update, and it will automatically update all dependencies for you. But sometimes you can get something like one high security vulnerability, and in this case it means that most probably your Next.js is outdated. So you can just run npm audit fix force, and it automatically installs the newest version of Next.js. So with that said, we imported all of our dependencies and successfully created our project. Next, we need to edit our global.css. So go and open it in snippets. And first, what we need to add is this class over here. So what it does, it actually removes the scroll bar from some newest browsers like Chrome and so on. And also we need to add this background gradient. So it's just some custom Tailwind CSS background. Paste it in here and save this. Then we can close our globals.css and we're ready to start creating our project. In our main folder, so click somewhere over here and click Create New Folder called Components. And inside this folder, let's create a new folder called Sections. So in sections, we will be storing some big parts of our site, like hero section or feature section and so on. And in components, we will be storing something like button, icon, component, and the rest. So go to sections and create a new file called hero.tsx. And inside, let's write a command called arrayfce and click Enter. So if it didn't work for you, you need to go to extension and install command called ES7+. So this first one, and it should work. So we created the basic component called hero. Let's write inside hero and save it. We also can delete the React and copy this component. So copy it. Then save and close this component. After this, we need to go to the sections and create a new file called navbar.tsx. And inside also run command arrayfce and write a navbar inside So let's save, close, then go and create a new file called catalog.tsx, also array of CE. Let's just copy this and paste inside, save and close. Next, we need to create a file called features.tsx, create a basic component and paste its name inside. Then save and close. Also, we need to create a component called reviews.tsx and initialize it. Then copy the name and paste inside, like this. The next should be sale.tsx, also create it, and inside let's write sale. So save and close. And finally we have a footer.tsx, also create it and paste this name inside, like this. But also we need to create a component called preview.tsx, and in this section we will be rendering our 3D model. So click enter, initialize it, and click preview. And then we need to create one last file called products.tsx. So in this file, we will be combining our catalog and preview in order to create this section over here with catalog and our preview. So to do that, let's import our components. First should be catalog, like this, and the second should be preview, like this. So let's save it and close all. Then we need to go to our app folder, open a page.tsx and delete everything you have here. So choose everything and delete it. Then create a div. And inside this div, we need to add all our components. So first should be Navbar. Then we need to add hero section. After hero, we have products section. After products, we have our features section. And after feature, we have a review section. So import it. After reviews, we need to create a div, and inside this div we need to render a sales section like this and our footer. So import it, and we imported all of our sections. Now we can run our site. So npm run dev and click enter, then click Ctrl on your keyboard and click this link over here, and it automatically opens in your browser. Then we can save our page.tsx, and as you can see, we successfully imported all of our components. Now we can add a bit of styling and edit our layout.tsx. So in first div, let's add a class name equal to text slate 100, and in the second let's add a class name equal to background stone 800, like this, and save. If you do not have this Tailwind to CSS translation over here, then you need to install the plugin called TailwindCSS, this first one. And then you should see the instant translation from Tailwind to just CSS. And if you do not familiar with Tailwind.css, so they have an excellent guide in their site. So you can just find any property you want in this search box. So don't worry, you can always find almost anything in their website. So after this, we need to go to our layout.tsx and remove these fonts as we won't be using them. Then we need to change this metadata so Google know what your site is about. So in title, let's write e-commerce shop with 3D preview. And in the description, I just write the same. And when you will be deploying it, you can change it for something you want. And also to remove this error, let's delete these styles in the body. So do like this. Let's format it a bit and save. Then go to HTML and add a class name equal to scroll smooth. And also set a background to stone 950 and let's save it. So with this done, we can close our layout.tsx and page.tsx. And one more thing left to do, it's download our assets like images and 3D models. To do that, you need to come back to the GitHub. Click this link over here, then click download. So then unzip this folder, click extract all, click extract, and then take this folder and drag to your project and paste it in the main folder. Click just copy folder. And you have your public folder in place. So in this folder, we have our favicon icon. In order this to work, we need to delete this one. Then we have our assets. So it reviews images, then hero PNG, also some 3D models. I will show you where you can get them, and some images of our keyboards and logo.png. So we can close this. And by the way, if you have some trust issues and you do not want to download it from the drive, you can always find this folder in the GitHub and download these assets over here. So with that said, let's move on to our components folder and open a Navbar.tsx and start creating our Next.js application. So first what we can do in Navbar is create a one modif. And as you can see in the example, we have these three blocks over here. So first should be logo, then a Navbar and a card. So to do that, we need to create a logo component like this, and we need to actually create it. So go to the components folder, create a new file called logo.tsx, and inside initialize this component. And after this, we need to add an interface. So write interface called logo props, and this interface will take as a parameter only one thing, its size, and it would be optional, and size can be or small or it can be large. So like this. Then let's import this property inside logo component. So property called size, and by default I set it to small, and add a type of logo props like this. In our case, by default size of logo would be small, and if we want a large logo, then we can specify that in component. So let's add a const called icon size, and this constant will be equal to 35 if size is large and 25 if size is small. So if size equal to large, then it would be equal to 35, and otherwise it would be equal to 25, like this. Then inside this div, we need to render an image. Import Next.js image. Actually, it's self-closing component. Then add a CRC equal to \assets logo.png, like this. Also add an alt tag equal to logo. After this, add width equal to our icon size, and also add height equal to our icon size. After this, we need to add a p tag in which we will be rendering the name of our site, and in our case it will be keyboard, like this. Also, let's add a class name to it, and it would be dynamic class name. Add back quotes, and inside let's write text slate 400, and also $sign, curly braces, and inside let's write if size equal to small. In this case, our text would be small, so text small, and otherwise text should be normal, so do not write anything. And also let's add class name to this div, flex, then flex row. After this, gap equal to 2, and finally items center. We need to save this, come back to our Navbar, and import this logo component. Now let's go inside this div and add a link. So import Next.js link, and inside this link we need to render firstly catalog. Also let's add an href equal to quotes, and inside let's write hashtag and catalog. Then let's add a class name to it equal to hidden. So in mobile we want it hidden, but in medium screen size and more we want it block. Then also add font semi-bold, also text small, and finally text slate 400. So like this. Then let's copy it and paste it 2 more times. Replace the second by features, and also the same do for a link, so features. In the last one we need reviews, and here the same. So like this. Also we need to add some class name to the div, and in our case it would be flex, then flex row. After this, gap equal to 8, and items center. And finally we need to render this card over here. So to do that we need to import an icon from React icons called far card shopping, like this. It's self-closing component, and also add a class name equal to width 6, height 6, then text slate 400, and finally cursor pointer. And that's it. Also let's add a class name to the parent div. First we have max width equal to 5 XL, then flex. After this, add justify between. Also items center, padding equal to 8, and margin X set to auto. So now we can save it and see what we got in our site. As you can see, now we do not have the menu, and if we expand a bit, so we have this. But as you can see, logo a bit small. So in our logo, let's add a size equal to large. So let's save it, and it's much better now. Then we need to create our hero section. So let's close all and go to our hero.tsx. And first what we can do here is to add an ID equal to hero. Then inside this main div we need to render one more div, and inside this div create one more div. Also we need to render here an image. So import Next.js image, it's self-closing component, and let's add the CRC firstly. So CRC would be equal to \assets, then hero.png. After this we need alt tag, which would be equal to just hero image. After this let's add a width equal to 700, then height equal to 400, and after this I want to set unoptimized to true equal to true in order to have the best resolution of image. Then we need to add a class name equal to left 1/4. After this, top equal to 4, then margin top equal to 16, but in medium screen size we want margin top equal to 0, and in medium screen size we want position equal to absolute, like this. And finally add a priority in order to load this image before everything else, because this is the most important image in our site which users will see in the first place. So add a priority like this, and let's save. So I made a mistake here, and here our image loaded. Then we need to go to this div, and firstly let's add a h1 tag, and inside this tag let's write your keyboard, then add a break tag and your comfort, like this. And also let's add some class name to it equal to text 5xl. In medium screen size we want text 6xl, and also font set to bold, like this. After h1 we need to add a p tag. So inside this p tag we need to add some text, and I already prepared this text in order as to not waste the time. So just copy it from GitHub data snippets and paste it over here. So when you did this, add a class name equal to text slate 400 and also font semi-bold. And in the end we need to add one more div, and inside this div we need to render these two buttons over here. So to do that, let's import Next.js link, and inside we need to write by keyboard, like this. And also let's add an href equal to placeholder for now, and also let's add a class name equal to width equal to 36, then flex, also justify center. After this we have padding y equal to 3, rounded xl, then text xs, and finally background equal to gradient. After this, let's copy this link over here and place it one more time. Then we need to delete this background gradient over here and add border and border white, like this. Then let's save and see what we got. So now we need to add a class name to this main div equal to flex, then flex row and gap equal to 6, like this. And also let's style this main div as well. So add width equal to full, then height equal to full. After this, in medium screen size we want width equal to half, also flex, then flex column. After this, gap equal to 8, also z index equal to 10, background gradient to right, also from stone 950, we are stone 950 to transparent, like this. So we can save it. Then let's add a class name to this div over here. So add a class name equal to flex, then flex column. After this, in medium screen size, we want flex row, then item center, and finally relative position. And also, while we are here, let's add a class name to this main div. So add position to relative. After this, let's set height to screen. After this, set max width to 5 pixel. Also margin x equal to auto. Also flex, then flex column. Then padding equal to 4, padding top equal to 8. In large screens we want padding top equal to 32, and in medium screens we want padding equal to 16. So with that done, let's save, and we have pretty much it. But the last thing we need to add is this button over here, which prevents us from scrolling, because currently I can scroll. So let's close it. And under this div, let's add a link. And inside this link, we need to render these two icons over here and the text. So the icon's called MD keyboard, double arrow down, like this. It's self-closing component. And also inside, let's add a class name equal to width 4, then height 4, also margin right equal to 2, and animate ping. Like this. Then we can copy this one more time, paste it, and replace margin right to margin left. And between these two icons, let's add a span. And inside span, we need to right click to scroll. Like this. And now we need to add an href inside link. So add an href equal to hashtag catalog. What this actually is ID of our catalog. So in order this to work, let's head to our catalog and add an ID equal to catalog. So let's save it, close it for now. And now it should work. Also, let's add a class name equal to absolute. Then bottom 24. Also left a half. After this, transform. After this, let's add minus. Translate by x dash a half. After this, flex. Then we need flex row. After this, items. Center. Then padding x equal to 6. Padding y equal to 2. Also margin x equal to auto. Margin bottom equal to 16. Margin top equal to auto. Also border. After this, border slate 400. Then rounded XL, text small, and finally text slate 400. It's quite a big class name, isn't it? Then we need to do only one more thing, and to change this by keyboard to see more. So let's save it and see what we got. So actually we created our hero section, but there are left two more things to do. So first and primary one is to disable user from scrolling until he or she clicks this button in the bottom of the page. And the second one is to add this text animation over here, like this. So let's start with primary one, and to do that, we need to add a use effect. Import a use effect from React, then add two brackets, an arrow, and curly braces. Inside, we need to create a function that will handle this scroll logic. So let's create a constant called handle scroll equal to brackets, then arrow and curly braces. Then inside create one more constant called hero element equal to document dot get element by ID and our ID hero. Then we need to write an if we have this hero element, then we need to proceed and create one more constant called rectangle, and it would be equal to our hero element dot get bounding line rectangle. And what this function do, it actually gets the position of our container. So we get top position, bottom position, left and right position, and also sizes of the container. Now we need to extract these sizes. To do that, create one more constant called isInView, and it would be equal to boolean value, which will be described as rect.top. So top position of our element should be more or equal to 84, and in the same time rect bottom should be more than window inner height. And if this is true, then we need to disable scroll. So we need to write document dot body dot style dot overflow equal to hidden if isInView is true, and otherwise equal to auto. So it enables our scrolling. isInView. Then we need hidden and otherwise auto. After this, we need to add window event listener, which will be triggered by scroll, and will call function called handle scroll. Also, we need to call the function handle scroll when we render the page. And finally, we need to clean up our event listeners when we do not need them. To do that, create function, and inside let's write window remove event listener of trigger type scroll and function handle scroll. Also set a document body style overflow to auto. So you can just copy it from here and delete this condition. But as you know, use effect can be only used in client components. So we need to add use client in the top to remove this error over here. So we can refresh now and try to scroll. I can't, but when we click this button, we scroll automatically. So that's great, but what about the motion? So it's not really a Framer motion tutorial, so you can leave it as it is. It already looks great, but if you want to add a motion, you can go to our site, pbpulse.com, go to components, then text motion, and absolutely for free you can get any of these animations. So I got this, type in animation, just copy everything you have here. Then let's go to our components folder, create a new file called typeintext.tsx. Then paste everything here. Then uncomment this export over here, delete this, also cut this part, and delete everything here. Then you can also delete everything here actually, because we have our custom styles. And finally, we can save it, close, go to our hero.tsx, and inside here, we need to paste this component, import it, like this, and copy this text over here, your keyboard, and replace this text over here. So now let's copy class name and also replace this class name over here. Then you need to copy this component, paste it one more time, and replace it by your comfort. So your keyboard, your comfort, like this. Then we can add this h1, and we need to wrap it in a div. So add a div, and wrap these two components in this div. One more time, a little bit of formatting, and we can save. So now we have our animation in place. And then we need to go to our catalog section and create it. So close all, go to our catalog section. Okay, and first what we can do here is to go back to our GitHub and go to snippets one more time, open a data and copy this array of data. So this array contains our products with ID, image, link, title, price, and our 3D model link. If you are going to scale this site, you can fetch this data from the database, and this will work as well. So then, under this array, we need to create a type. So it would be export type called product type, and it would have the same properties as our product. So we can copy this over here, paste it inside, and then we can replace this actual data by a type. So ID should have a type of string. Then we have image CSS also type of string. Then title type string and model CSS type string. And our price should have a type number, like this. Then we need to create interface for our catalog. So create interface called catalog props. And inside we should have only two parameters. First, it's selected product, so we can choose our product and see its model on a site. So selected product of type, our product type, like this. And also we need to pass a function that will allow us to change this product. So on product click, and it's function that takes as input product and returns nothing. So we give it product of type product type and returns nothing, like this. Then we need to import these two parameters into our catalog. So first selected product, and on product click, of type our catalog props. So let's save it. Now we can go inside this catalog and create h2 tag. So inside let's write catalog, and also above it let's add a span. In this span we need to render a backslash and space. So let's add a class name to this span equal to animate pose. And also let's add a class name to this h2. So class name equal to text to Excel, then font semi-bold. After this padding left equal to 4, then in medium screen size we want padding left equal to 16, also padding bottom equal to 16. We can save it. And we need to add one more div. And in this div, we will be mapping through all products in our product array and create an array of components which will be called product card. So we can open a curly braces and inside let's write a product dot map, open two brackets, and inside let's write product and index, and then we need to do something with this import data. So we need to render a product card like this. So now we can go and create this product card component. But before that, we need to go to our product.tsx, and as you can see here, we have an error. And that's because our catalog component now takes two parameters, and we need to provide these two values. So first what we can do is to add a use client in the top. Then we need to create a use state which will hold the selected product. So let's create a const equal to selected product and also set selected product. Which would be equal to use state imported from React, and as a default value we need to set the first element of the products array. So copy this first object over here and paste it inside this use state. Then we need to create a function that will change this selected product. So let's create one more const called handle product click, which would take as a parameter product of type product type. So import this product type and it will return basically nothing, but it will set our new selected product. So set selected product to our product like this. Then we can pass these two values inside our catalog component. So our selected product would be equal to selected product, and on product click would be equal to handle product click like this. Now we can save it and close. Then we can go to our components and create this product card. So you can copy the name over here, go to components, create a new file called productcard.tsx, and in here let's initialize this empty component. And first thing what we need to do here is to create an interface. So create an interface called product card props, and it would have few properties. First, it's index of type number. Then we have image CRC of type string. After this, title of type string. Also we have a price of type number. Also is active. So this is active would actually say which card is currently active and which 3D model is currently showing in the site. So is active would be Boolean. And finally, on click, it would be a function that will trigger our product changing logic. So it takes nothing and returns nothing like this, but it would actually trigger our onProductClick function. So now we can import all these parameters into our product card. So let's do it. First index, after this we have image CRC, then we have a title, also we have price, is active, and finally on click. and these parameters of type product card props, like this. Then we can go inside this div and here add a property onClick, which would be equal to our onClick function, like this. Then inside this div, we need to firstly render an image. So import Next.js image, self-closing component. As CRC, we would pass our image CRC. Then alt tag would be equal to just product. Then we have width, which we can set to 128. The same for height, 128. And also let's set unoptimized equal to true. And finally, let's add a class name equal to roundedXL. So like this. After this image, we need to create a div. And in this div, we need to render a title, a price, and a button. So to do that, firstly, let's create h3. Inside this h3, we need to render a title. Then let's add a class name. So the class name would be equal to text large, then font semibold. After this h3 tag, let's create one more div. And inside this div, we need to create a p tag, which would be equal to price. So let's set a $sign and then price, like this. Also, let's add a class name to it. So the class name would be text slate 400. Then after this p tag, we need to create a div. And inside this div, let's write by and let's add a class name to it. The class name would be equal to width 16, then flex, justify center. After this, padding y equal to 1, text small, then border. After this, roundedXL. Then on hover, we want to have background stone 200. Also, let's add a transition. And duration of transition, let's set to 300. And also on hover, we want to make a text stone 800. And also, let's add class name to this div. So it would be equal to flex, then flex row. After this, items center and justify between. Now we need to add a class name to this main div as well. So it flex, then flex column. After this, justify also between. Padding x set to 4, padding y set to 6, and also set text to slate 200. Slate 200. And while we are here, we need to add a class name to this main div. So add a class name, it should be a dynamic one, so open a curly braces and inside let's add a back quotes. And on hover, we need to scale this div to 105 and also if it's active, so it's active. In this case, we need also scale this div to 105 and otherwise do nothing. Also, we need to wrap this inner part into one more div. So do it like this. Also, let's add a bit of formatting and add a class name to it. It also should be a dynamic one. And first we need width 80, then height 32, flex, Also flex row. After this, gap equal to 4. Rounded XL, also transitional. After this, set a duration to 300. Also add a cursor pointer. And also, if it's active, then we want background equal to gradient. And otherwise, background equal to stone 800. Like this. Let's save and see what we got. And for what this div, it's actually for the animation of this card. If you do not want to do animation, you can just copy all the styles and place it in this main div and delete this div. But if you do, we will come back to them later. But now we can go to our catalog.tsx and import this product card. So like this. Now we need to add a key property. So key equal to our index. So what is key? Key is special React property that allows React to manage the list components in very efficient way. We can omit it, but it's better to always have it. Then we have all these properties over here. So first would be index equal to index. After this, we have a title equal to our product.title. Then we have our image CRC equal to product.image CRC. After this, we have a price equal to our product.price. Also, we have isActive equal to a Boolean value, which will be represented by this equation. So if selected product.id equal to our product.id, it means that our product is actually selected one, and we need to make it bigger and change the background to gradient. And then finally we need onClick. It's a function that will take nothing, but will call handle, but will call on product click with the parameter of product, like this. So we can save it, see what we got currently, and the card are imported, but we need to add a class name in order to store them correctly. So let's add width equal to full. After this, we need flex, then flex column. After this, items center. In large screens, we want flex row, also gap equal to 6, and margin x equal to auto, like this. And finally, we can add a class name to the main div equal to max width 5 pixel and also margin x equal to auto. So let's save it, and we created our catalog section. But the last thing to do is to add the animation to these containers over here. So to do that, we need to go to our components folder, create a new file called animated container.tsx, initialize this component over here, and if you copied any motion for the text from phoebepals.com, you can go to that file, copy everything you have here and paste it inside our new component. Then we can delete something. So copy this inner div and paste it inside your animated container. Then delete this part over here. Also, we need to move this import to the top. Then after this, we need to rewrite this interface over here. So paste it in the top, rename it to animated container props, So animated container props, and it would take as a parameters, firstly, it would take children of type React node imported from React. After this, we have a delay of type number, and finally styles of type string, and they can be optional. After this, we need to go down here, copy any variant you have, and paste it inside this component, rename it to just variant, and let's import all properties in our interface, so children, after this delay. Also we have styles, and all of this of type animated container props. Now we can replace it with the styles and delete everything we have here. So now we can work a bit with this component. First, what we need to do is to edit this variant over here. So opacity is 0, then add an x equal to 50 and y equal to 100. Then in show part, we need opacity 1, y 0, and x also 0. And in transition part, we need to have this and also add a duration of 0.5 and delay of delay. Like this. Also, we need to go down here and change this variance to just variant and add the property viewport equal to curly braces once true. What it actually do, it shows the animation only one time after rendering. And inside we need to pass a children. You can save it now. And now we need to go back to our product card. Just copy the name of this component over here and replace this div by the component, import it, and do not forget to change this div as well. So now we can save, but we need to replace also this class name with styles and add a delay which would be equal to our index multiplied by 0.2. So as you can see, I made a little mistake over here with children. So children, like this. And here also children. So we can save it. We have no errors, and now we need to save this product card. We can refresh this and we have our animation in place. So now we created our catalog, then we need to create features and reviews very fast and move on to creating our 3D models. So let's close all this, go to our features.tsx, and first what we can do here is to go to our GitHub one more time and copy these features over here and paste this array in the top. Now we need to import all icons from React icons. So just do like this. And the last one is done. Then our features section is quite similar to our catalog section, so we can go to our catalog.tsx and copy a little bit of code. So here you can copy everything and paste it in here. So now we can delete everything we have here. Then we can replace this catalog ID and name over here with features. So let's choose them all, Ctrl D or Command D, delete and write features like this. Then we can save it. Also, we need to add in this class name padding top equal to 8 and just delete everything here. Next, we need to map through all features in our array. So let's go and do this. Features.map, then open brackets, arrow and one more brackets. In first one, we need to add feature and index. And in the second, we need to render our feature card. So write feature card and its self-closing component. Then we need to go and create this feature card component. So to do that, go to components, new file, and create component called feature card.tsx. Initialize it. First, what we need to do is to create interface called feature card props. Then inside we need to get index of type number. After this, icon of type icon type. Import this from the React icons. After this, we have a title of type string. Then we have a description of type string. And that's all. Now we need to import all of these properties inside feature card. So index icon as icon component. Then we have title. And finally description. And all of this has a type of feature card props. Now we can go inside this div and add an icon, its self-closing component. And inside let's add a class name equal to absolute, then top equal to 0, right equal to 0, then width equal to 40, height equal to 40, text set to stone 900, and finally that index equal to 0. After this icon, we need to create a div. So create a div, and inside this div, we need one more time render an icon. So its self-closing component, add a class name equal to width 8, height equal to 8, and margin bottom equal to 4. After this icon, we need h3 tag, which will be rendering our title, and also add a class name to it equal to text to Excel, then font semibold, and after this h3 tag we need a p tag, which will be rendering our description. Also add a class name to it, which would say text slate 300. Also let's style this parent div, so add a flex, then flex column, also gap equal to 4, relative position, padding x equal to 4, then padding y equal to 6, also that index equal to 10. And finally we can style this div over here, so add a class name equal to width 80, then height equal to 72, after this background equal to stone 800. After this we have rounded Excel, also overflow hidden, and finally position relative. So we can save it and go to our features, import this feature card. Over here, let's add a key prop equal to index. After this, let's add our index equal to index. After this, we have a title equal to our feature title dot title. After this, let's add an icon equal to our feature icon, so feature dot icon. After this, we have a description, so add feature dot description, like this. Now we can format it a bit and add a class name over here, which would say flex, then flex wrap, also items center, then justify center. After this, gap equal to 8, also max width equal to 4xl, and finally margin x equal to auto. So let's save it and see what we got. So we created our feature cards, but one more thing we need to add, it's animation if you created animated container. So if you do, you can replace this div by animated container, like this. Also copy this and replace this last div, and change this class name to style, like this. And we need to add a delay property as it required. So for delay, we would set 0.2 for even index and 0.7 for odd index. In order to achieve this effect, if we scale and then go a little bit here, as you can see, this card appears a little bit earlier than this one. So to achieve this effect, let's write if index modulo by 2 equal to 0, then we need to set 0.2 and otherwise 0.7. Also, we need to go to our features.tsx and add a use client in the top, because inside this component we will be rendering a framer motion components, so it should be a use client one. Do like this, then save, and let's see what we got here. Let me refresh. And as you can see, we successfully created our features section, and now we can continue with reviews. So first, what we can do for reviews, is go in features.tsx and copy this h2 tag. Then we can close all, go to our folder and find reviews.tsx. Here, replace this reviews with h2 and rename features to reviews. Reviews. Let me save, and we have our reviews title in place. After this, we can go back one more time to our GitHub and in data snippets copy this array of reviews like this and paste it in the top of our reviews.tsx. So nothing to import here, we can save, and then we need to create a marquee which look like this. So to do that, we already downloaded the React Fast marquee dependency, and now we need to import this marquee. So let's write marquee, import it, and first what you can do here is to add a speed equal to 25. You can actually play with this value a bit if you want to. And inside we need to add a list of our marquee components. So to do that, we need to map through all objects in our reviews array. As always, open a curly braces, then let's write reviews dot map, then two brackets. Inside we need to write review and index, and we creating our review card component. So review card and its self-closing component. Now we can go and create this review card. So go to components, new file, and create review card.tsx. Initialize this component over here. And first, as always, we need to create interface and name it review card props. And inside we need to pass 4 parameters. First, it's name of type string. After this, we have image CRC of type string. Then we have text of type also string. And finally, stars of type number. So do like this. Now we need to import this all values inside our review card component. So name, image CRC, also text and stars, and all of that of type review card prop. And then we need to go inside this div and create one more div inside. So in this div, we will be storing this image, this title, this name, and this stars. And under this header, we need to render our review. So under this div, you can add a p tag, and inside this p tag, let's render text of our review. So like this. Also, we need in this div add firstly image. So import Next.js image. And in this div, we firstly need to create 2 more divs. So first div and second one. In first div, we need to render the image and a name. So import Next.js image, its self-closing component, add an CRC equal to our image CRC, like this. Also alt tag will be equal to client. And also let's add a width equal to 35, height also equal to 35, and set a class name equal to rounded full. Then, under this, we need to render a name, so let's create a span. And inside the span, we need to render our name. And let's add class name to this parent div as well. So flex, also items center. After this, we have justify center. And finally, gap equal to 4. Also, in the second div, we need to render a star and a star's number. So we can firstly import an icon called fastStar, like this, self-closing component. And after, we need also to add a span. And inside the span, render stars number. So stars like this. But it seems to have an error because I made a little mistake over here. So with that done, let's add a class name to this div. It's actually the same as in the previous one, so you can just copy and paste. So let's save. Then we need to add a class name to this parent div. So add a flex, then justify between. After this, we have item center. And finally, text equal to XS. Also, let's add a class name to this p tag over here, which will be equal to text slate 300 and text XS. And finally, we need to add a class name to this main div, which would be equal to width 64, after this height 40, then flex, also flex column, after this background equal to stone 800, then rounded XL. Also we have gap y equal to 2, padding x equal to 4, padding y equal to 6, And finally, margin right set to 4. So let's save it. And now what we can do is to return to our reviews, import our review card, and then add some properties. First, as always, should be key equal to our index. After this, we have a name equal to our review name, so review.name. After this, we have image CRC equal to our review.image CRC. Then we have a text equal to our review.text. And finally, stars equal to our review.stars. Like this. So you can do a little bit of formatting over here. And one more thing left to do here is to add styles to this main div. So let's do it. First, it's container. After this, margin X set to auto. Also margin Y equal to 32, padding top equal to 8, and also we can add an ID equal to reviews. So we can save it and see what we got. So we created our reviews section, and I think it's a beautiful one. So now we need to create a sale and a simple footer. So we can close this too, then go to our sale.tsx. And I want to mention that sale is the easiest component we will create. So to do that, first what we need to do is add an h2, and let me show you how it looks. So it's actually this limited collection for sales and discount up to 30%, and this button over here. And then we will add these two keyboards over here, like this. So let's come back to our code. And in this h2, we need to write limited collection, then add a break tag, then for sale, like this. Then let's add a class name to it, equal to text 4XL. In medium screen, we want text 5XL. Then font set to bold and text center. After this, we need to create a p tag. And inside, let's write discounts up to 30%. Also, let's add a class name to it, equal to uppercase, also text small, then font bold, also background set to gradients, also background clip text, and finally text transparent, like this. After this p tag, we need to render Next.js link, so import it. And inside we need to write the words by keyboard. Also, let's add an href equal to our hashtag catalog. So this button head out our user to a catalog section. And next, we need a class name equal to width 36, then flex, also flex column, and items center. Also we need padding y equal to 3, rounded XL, then we need text XS and background gradient, like this. So we can save it. And finally, we need to add a class name to this main div. So it's flex, then flex column, also container. After this, we have items center, gap equal to 8, padding top equal to 32, margin X auto, and the last one, relative position. So do like this. Let's save and see what we got. It seems that we created our sales section, and one more left, it's footer. So let's close the sale and go to our footer.tsx. And as you can see, if we go back to our example site, I refresh here, and in our footer, firstly we have the social, then some information about the shop, and finally footer Navbar. Also we have a copywriting and contact us below. So to do that, we can go back to our code, and in here we can firstly create one more div inside this div, and in this div we would have our social, info, and navbar. So first we need a social, so let's create a separate component for this. Let's write social, it's our closing component, and then you can just copy this footer over here and paste it in the top. Then rename this footer to social, like this. Delete everything you have here. And now, first thing we need to add here, it's this logo. So to do that, let's import our logo component. After this, we need to create a new div, and inside this div, we need to render these 4 icons over here. So let's import Next.js link, and inside we need to import an icon called for Instagram. So closing component, and also let's add an href to our link, and for now let's set it to just placeholder. So also we can add a class name to it equal to flex, then items center, after this justify center, rounded full, also background white, and padding 1. And also let's add a class name to this icon over here. So set a text to stone 900, like this. Let's save it. Now copy this link and paste it 3 more times. And let's replace for Instagram with for Facebook. Then for Instagram with for Twitter, like this. And finally we need to replace this icon by fee YouTube. Now we can add a class name to this main div over here, which would be equal to flex, then flex row, and finally gap equal to 4, and add a class name to this main div over here, also flex, but flex column and gap 4, like this. Then we can save it, go back to our footer, and under this social, let's render one more div, and in this div create one more div, and in this div create a p tag which would say location. So location, and also let's add a class name to it equal to pxs, also font semi-bold, then text slate 400, and after this p tag we need to create one more which would say some address. So I copy, you can write whatever you want, and also let's add a class name to this div over here which would be equal to width 32, also flex call, and gap equal to 2, like this. Now we can copy this div over here and paste it under the div, and just replace the location with phone, and write a phone over here. So plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, 12. And let's add a class name to this div over here, which equal to flex column and gap equal to 8. And finally, under this div, we need to create one more, and that div will be representing our navbar. So create a link in it, and let's add an href equal to placeholder. You can replace it with actual names of sections later, and first would be home. So we can now copy this and paste it 4 more times. Then replace with catalog. Then we have about. Also we have contact us. And finally, privacy policy. Like this. Also, let's add a class name to this main div over here, equal to flex column, gap equal to 2, text small, and text slate 400. And we can save and see what we got currently. Already something, but we need to add this horizontal line over here and also this text over here. So to do that, go under this div and create a horizontal line. It's cell closing component. Add a class name equal to paddingx 16 and set a border to slate 400. Then under this horizontal line, we need to render one more div. And in this div, we need to add a p tag, firstly with copywriting. So write ampersand copy like this, and I write phoebepals.com, and you can write whatever you want. And under this p tag, create one more, which would say contact us, some vertical line, and some email, for example, keyboard@gmail.com, like this. Also, let's add a class name to this div equal to width full, then flex column reverse. After this, set a gap y equal to 2. In medium screen size, we want just flex row. Also items center, justify between, padding y equal to 4, text equal to xs, and text slate 400. And finally, what we need to do is to go back, and here let's style these two main divs. So add a class name to this one and write flex, then flex column, also gap 12. Then in medium screen size we want flex row. After this, justify between, padding bottom equal to 8 and padding x equal to 8. Also, let's add this final class name over here, which is equal to container. Then max width set to 5 pixel. Also margin x equal to auto. Padding top equal to 32. Position relative. And finally, that index equal to 20. So now we can save and see if everything is all right. So as you can see, here we successfully created our footer, but here the gap is missing. So let's go back to our social, and I solve this problem over here. So now it's finally created. And now we finally came to the main part of today's video. It's Three.js. So first of all, it's a powerful JavaScript library for creating 3D graphics in a browser. And there are four main components to understand when you're working with Three.js. It's scene, models and objects, light and camera. So let me open a Blender. And as you can see, this grid over here, it's like a scene where you can place different objects, cameras, lights and so on. If I enable this object, you can see this mathematical representation of the keyboard, and this is the model. Also, we can add a cube or so on, so this is would be an object. Then we have a light. So light can be general, like sunlight, to help us see the objects, or directional, to make shadows. And finally, to view everything on a flat screen, we need a camera, which acts like a stream showing the 3D model in our scene on a website. So if I add a camera, as you can see, this thing over here represents a camera. So this camera records this keyboard like this. So now let's go to our preview.tsx and add 3D object to a website. And if you don't understand something during this course, I have created a complete guide that you can download for a deeper dive into Three.js, so link in the description. So first of all, let's go to our code editor, close this footer and open our preview.tsx. And in here, first what we need to do is import Three.js. So let's write import everything as 3 from 3, like this. So we imported all modules from our Three.js library, which we are installed in the beginning of the course with the package JSON. And now we need to create a use effect in which we will be store all 3D logic of our website. So let's go inside preview and create a use effect. Import it from React, and then inside, first what we need to create is a scene. So let's create a const called scene equal to our new 3.scene, like this, and brackets in the end. So we created our scene, and now we need to specify the width and height of our scene. So basically the dimension of our box in our site. So to do that, create two more constants called scene width. And for now, let's set it to window.inner width. And the same let's do for height. So you can just copy, paste it below. Choose this width, Ctrl D or Command D, and write height. So like this. We created our width and height. And the next step, we need to create a renderer. So let's create it first, and then I explain what is it. Create a const called renderer equal to our new 3.webgl renderer. Like this, also brackets in the end. So the renderer is responsible for taking the scene, like objects, lights, cameras, etc., and rendering them visually to the browser using WebGL. So basically the renderer creates the 3D pictures in our site. After this, we need to give this renderer a size of a box. So to do that, let's write render.setSize. And inside brackets, we need to firstly specify a width, so set it to scene width, and then scene height, like this. And one more step we need to do to add this structure into our website. It's to create a useref hook, which will store a reference to a DOM element. This reference is used to attach Three.js renderer to a specific div in the DOM. It persists across all renders, and changing it won't trigger the re-render. So let's create our const about use effect called mountRef. And it's equal to use ref imported from React. Let's add a type to HTML div element or null, and by default set it to null, like this. Then we need to go inside the return, delete this over here, make this div self-closing, and create a ref equal to our mount ref. So actually what we just done, we assigned this 3D scene to this div. So actually that 3D scene will be rendered in this div. Now we need to add a class name, and for now let's set it to width screen and height also screen, like this. Now firstly extract the value of this mount ref. To do that, we need in our use effect create a const called mount, and it would be equal to our mount ref dot current. And then let's check whether we have this mount. So if we don't have our mount, so then we do not want to execute any Three.js code, so we need to return like this, and otherwise we need to create everything over here. And then after we created this, we need to add this render, so basically our scene, our models, our camera, and so on, to the div. So to do that, we need to write mount dot append child, and as a child we need to pass render dot DOM element, like this. After this, we need to create a camera to be able to see any objects in our scene. To create a camera, create a new const called camera equal to new 3.perspective camera. In Three.js there are a few cameras, but most commonly used and the best for this project is perspective one, so we will be using this one. Then in brackets we need to specify 4 parameters. First, it's angle. Typically we can set it to 75, and let me show you what it does. So if we look at this camera over here, as you can see, if I drag it, the angle over here is small. And if we view it from the camera view, you can see that we see only these 2 buttons over here. But if I make the angle is very big, like this, then in our camera we will see much smaller model and a big part of our scene. That's basically what this angle does, and you can play with this value as you want. So let's set it to 75 for now, and then we need to specify the aspect ratio, basically the sizes of the camera frame. To do that, we need to set it to scene width divided by scene height. After this, we need to specify the value which represents the distance between the camera and the model or the object when the model won't be rendered. So if the model too close to this camera by this distance, then the model won't be rendered. So let me show you how it looks. So for example, if we make our camera too close to the object, for example like this, and it's closer than that parameter, then the object won't be rendered. And after this, one more value, it's the value of maximum distance when object will be rendered, and after this it won't be rendered. So this one is the closest distance when the object will be rendered, and this the farthest. So you can do not write them because they set by default, but in some specific cases you can play with them. So after this we need to create our object, so there will be something to see. And to do that, at first we want to create something simple. For example, let's create a cube. So to do that, we need to create a const called geometry, and it will be equal to our new 3.box geometry. So create a box geometry over here, and inside brackets we need to specify 3 variables, the sizes of this box, so 1 by 1 and by 1. Then we need to create a const called material, and here you can specify, for example, color. So let's add 3.mesh basic material, and inside open a curly braces, let's write color, and then set it to 0, x00ff00. This number represents the green color. And after this, we need to create this cube. So let's create a const called cube, and it would be equal to new 3 mesh, and inside we need to give geometry as a parameter and our material. After we created this cube, we need to add it to a scene, so we would able to see it. Let's write scene dot add our cube. It's simple, right? And after this, the last thing we need to do to see something of our website, it's render it. So let's add final line, it's renderer.render, and inside we need to give the scene and the camera. So we can now save this, and if we go to our site and maybe refresh it, then scroll a bit, we do not see anything, and that's why we need to play with the position of camera, because currently we facing this issue, the camera is too close to the object. So to do that, we only need to play with the position of a camera. So we can write a camera dot position by that axis equal, for example, to 6. So save it and see what we got. Let's refresh. And we have our cube, but it's a little bit boring now because we see it only from one side. So let's maybe rotate it a bit, right? So let's go back to our preview. Go and under this cube, let's write cube dot rotation by x-axis equal to 0.2, for example, and also cube dot rotation by y-axis equal to 0.3. So now we can go back to our site, refresh it, and we see that the perspective of our cube a little bit changed, but it's also boring. So let's add an animation. So to do that, we need to create a function called animate. So function animate brackets, then add curly braces, and inside this curly braces we need to do two things. First, it's add this rotation over here, so you can cut it from here and paste it inside. But let's replace this value by 0.1 and 0.1, and also let's add plus over here. And after this, we need to render this. So cut this over here and paste it over here. So every time we call in this function animate, a cube is a little bit rotating, and then the scene is re-rendering and we show this like a movement. So to make it work, we need to call this function. So to do that, we need to write render dot set animation loop, and inside brackets we need to specify what function we want to call. So function called animate. Now we can save it and go to our site, refresh it. And now, as you can see, our cube is rotating and animating. And so far, we learned how to create a scene, how to create a render, how to add to the scene object, and how to add a camera, and how to make a basic animation. And next, what we can do is to play with this cube and, for example, make 10 cubes. So you know how to work with multiple objects in the scene. So to do that, let's return to our preview.tsx, and in here we need to create a for loop. So above this cube over here, create a for loop, for brackets, and inside let's write let I equal to 0, and I should be less than 10 because we want to create 10 cubes, and in each cycle I should be increasing by 1. Also open a curly braces, and inside we need to create a cube. Cut this part over here and paste it in here. And then after we created this cube, we need to add it to scene. So also cut this part over here and paste it inside for loop. But we need that these cubes were in different position, because currently they are like the one cube because they located in the same position. So to do that, we can use mass random. So let's add a position to cube. Write cube position dot set And in these brackets, we need to specify 3 values: x position, y position, and z position of the cube. So to do that, let's use mass random. Let's write mass dot random and then minus 0.5 multiplied by 10. So mass random returns us a value between 0 and 1, then we minus 0.5 and multiply by 10. It means that we get the position of cube between minus 5 and 5. And that's how we will do it. So now you can just copy this line over here and paste it 2 more times for y and z position. And we have an error because now we have a lot of objects in our scene and we need to animate them a little bit differently. To do that, we need to go inside this function called animate and write scene.traverse like this and give it an object. And after this, we need to play with this object. So what traverse do is basically mapping through all instances in our scene, for example, camera, lights, and our models. So in this case, we do not want to animate camera, for example, or the light. So now we need to check whether our object instance of type 3mesh. So if it is, that means that we're dealing with some cubes, some models, not with the cameras, lights, and so on. So now we need to rotate it. So you can just copy this, actually cut it, and paste it over here. And now rename this cube to an object, like this. So we created our 10 cubes over here, give them random position, and now we animate them all. So we can save this and go to our site, refresh it, and now we have a lot of cubes here. So I believe we learned the basic of Three.js, and now we can progress and finally add our keyboards to the site. So let's go back to our preview.tsx, and in here, first what we need to do is to add a loader. So what is loader? Loader is the instance of Three.js that will allow us to load our model. So in the top of your use effect, after the mount, add a const called loader that will be equal to new gltf loader. So import it from Three.js. And actually, Three.js has a lot of these loaders for different type of files. We will be using files gltf, so we use this specific loader. gltf file with 3D model is the best option for the web, but you always can use some other extensions, for example, blend object and so on. You just need to replace the loader. And I also will show you how you can convert any file to gltf. So with that done, we need to create a function that will load our model. So let's go below and delete some things we do not need actually now. So we can delete these cubes over here. Also, we can delete this animation over here and leave the rest as it is. So with that done, we need to create somewhere, for example here, function that will load our model. To do that, let's write loader.load, and in these brackets, first what we need to specify is the URL where our model locates. So to get this, let's go to our catalog section, and in here you can copy this model CRC, or you can copy this one, anyone you like actually. So let's go back to preview and paste it over here. And then we need to give a callback function which will run if our model is successfully loaded. So let's write gltf, then add an arrow and open a curly braces, and inside we need to create a const called model, so model, and it will be equal to our gltf dot scene And then we need to specify the sizes of our model. The similar we done with geometry of the cube. So let's write model dot scale dot set, and in brackets let's set 1 and 1 and 1 like this. So this is the dimensions by y axis and z axis. And if you set this one to a half, for example, then the model by x axis will be squeezed a bit. So then we need to add this model to a scene. So let's write scene dot add a model. And after this, we should see our model in the site. So let's go there. So let's refresh and see what we got. And currently we not able to see the model, but it actually exists in this dark screen. The answer to the question why we not able to see it is that because we didn't add any light to this scene. So you can ask why then we was able to see the cubes but do not see the model now. And that's because the cube uses some basic materials which do not require any light to be seen. But the models by itself using more advanced approach and use some physical materials which are drop shadows, and to see this model we need to add a light to this scene. So let's come back to our preview.tsx. First, what we can add here is ambient light. In Three.js we have a lot of light, but in this project we will be using two main, it's ambient light and it's directional light. So what's the difference? Ambient light is light which just make our object visible, and it do not give any shadows and do not have any direction. So it just makes our object a little bit lighter so we can see it. But the directional light, it's like a sun. It's a very powerful source of light which gives shadows and makes our model more realistic. So to add an ambient light, we can go under camera and create a new const called ambient light, which is equal to new 3 ambient light. And in brackets, we need to specify the color of this light and the intensity. So let's set it to just white light, and as intensity, let's set 1.5, like this. And now, to see this light, we need to add it to a scene. So as always, scene.add ambient light, like this. So now we can save it, go to our website, refresh, and we can see our model. So in this case, we can see it from this perspective. Let me go to the Blender and we see it like this. But we wanted to see it somewhere like this. So to do that, we need to rotate our scene. To do that, we can go somewhere over here, for example, and write scene.rotation by x equal to 3 mass utils dot degrees to radian equal to 60. Now we can save and go see what we have. So as you can see, we have a great picture of our keyboard, but we need to add some directional light, and I wanted to explain what we just did. So we get our scene and rotate it by x-axis by 60 degrees. So if try to visualize it, so we get our scene, get this x-axis, which is red over here, and try to rotate this scene by 60 degrees like this. So you can play with this value actually, you can make it 90, you can make it 30, or whatever you want, but it's actually what we just did. And now, after this ambient light, let's add some directional lights. So create a new const called directional light top, which is equal to our new then 3 dot directional light, and inside brackets we need to specify the same two parameters, the color of light and intensity. So let's just set it to 1 over here. Then we need to give the position of this directional light. So let's write directional light dot position dot set, and in brackets let's write just 5, then 10, and then 7.5. You can also play with these values, but you already know what they mean. It's just X, Y, and Z position of our light. And then we need to add it to a scene. So let's write scene.add, and in brackets directional light top. So we can save. One more time, go to our site and see what we got. But really we need more light, so let's come back, copy this over here and paste it 2 more times. And let's rename this to left. And we need to change the position, so let's set it to -10, then 5 and 0. And the last light should be from the right, so let's Ctrl D and change it to right, and also change the position to 10, 5 and 0. Like this. Now we can go to our site and see if it's better now. So the light is great, but as you can see we have really poor quality of our model. And there are 2 main reasons for that. First, it's low resolution. So we need to set it to resolution of the screen you have. And the second one, it's if I increase a bit, you can see the stair steps in the corners of buttons, for example. To deal with this, we need to go to our preview.tsx, then find the render, and in here, to smooth these corners, we need to write anti-alias equal to true. So it will smooth our corners a bit. So let me refresh it. And as you can see, now they are smooth. And now we need to increase pixel ratio. So let's go back, and under this set size, we need to write render dot set pixel ratio equal to our window dot device pixel ratio, like this. So now if we one more time refresh and go here, we can see that now our model looks like a real one. Next, what we can do here, as you can see, we have a black screen in the background, but we wanted the color of the website. So to deal with this, we need to set the render color to transparent. To do that, let's write render one more time and set clear color equal to first its color and then opacity. So let's write 0, x 0, 0, 0, 0 and 0, 0, and opacity also set to 0. So let's see what we got. Now, as you can see, we have the same color. So basically we make our Three.js background transparent, and then the background of the site is visible to us. So with that done, we can make some changes to the scene width and scene height for better user experience, and also let's integrate model changing logic. So it looks like this. Then we can add some animation, and finally we add these movements over here. So to do that, let's go to our preview, and in here, first what we need to do is to create a new const called container width, which would be equal to our mount dot client width. After this, we need to go inside the scene width, delete this, and write if statement. If our container width less or equal than 1536, then we want to set our scene width to container width, and otherwise we set it to 1536. And then for scene height, if window dot inner width less or equal than window inner height, then we want the thin height to be equal to window inner width, and otherwise we want it to be equal to window inner height. So these values are really experimental, and for me they work best in this project, so you can play with them or leave them as it is. And then let's go to the div and change our class name to width full, then height equal to 400 pixels, but in medium screen size we want height equal to 800 pixels. Also padding top equal to 8, but on medium screen size we want padding top equal to 0. So we can save it and see what we got. So let's refresh, and it almost looks like in our example. But there are a lot of work to do yet. After this, we can play with camera position and change that position to a 5. And also, let's set a position for our model. So let's write model dot position dot set, and in brackets 0, 0, and -2. So now we can save and go see what we got. So let's refresh. And as you can see, we have the same model as in our example over here. And now, before we progress to create this product changing logic and add an animation, I wanted to show you how you can get a free model and, for example, convert it if there is no GLTF file available. And I found my keyboard in this site, and you can also search for it in any site you want. So click the site, and here this keyboard which we are using. So, but unfortunately, as you can see, we do not have this GLTF file over here, but we have a Blender file. So we can click free download over here. You need to log in actually to be able to download the file. Then we need to wait a bit. And here download the zip file over here. So click download, then go to the folder. So in here we need to unzip it. Click extract all and extract. And then we can go inside this folder, click keyboard and open this Blender file. So just click 2 times and here it is. So we have our model in our Blender. Here, what you can do actually, you can change the colors of the buttons, for example. So go to this material tab over here. And now you can, for example, change this button and change the color to like this. And then you can do the same for the rest of the buttons. So with that done, what you can do is click File and find Export and choose here this GLTF file over here. So with that done, you need to choose the location and export it as a model. Now you can close the Blender and you see in this folder, now we have this GLB file. So now you can get this GLB file and drag it to VS Code public folder. So let me do this. Find our public folder, and now we can drag this file in our public folder. So when you do this, you can go, for example, to our preview and change the location. Now let's save and go to our site. So in here, when we refresh, we have this new keyboard over here. So for example, if you do not need a keyboard, but you need a shoes, so you can do this as well. So you can find free ones or find some paid ones, download it. For example, this one do not have GLTF also, but you can always convert it. And also you can just use object or PBX file. There are also such loaders in Three.js, but as I already mentioned, it's better to use GLTF files as they are the lightest ones and more optimized for the web. So with that said, we can close the site over here and replace our keyboard with original one. Next, what we can do is to create this logic when we are loading the model of the current product. So to do that, firstly, what we need to do is to give us this selected product. And to do that, we need to go to our product.tsx, and in here, we need to give a preview our selected product. So copy this and paste it in here. And also, as we are here, let's add some class names to this div. So set a maximum width to 1536 pixels. After this, we have flex, also flex column, margin x equal to auto, and finally padding top equal to 8. So we can now save this, go back to our preview, and here now we need to create an interface. So create an interface called preview props. And in here, we need to pass our selected product. So selected product of type product type. Import this type. And now we need to add this selected product to our preview. So let's write selected product and add a type of preview props like this. With that done, we need to add one more useRef. So this useRef would be called model ref, and it will be equal to useRef. It would have a type 3.object3d or null, and by default set it to null. So it will actually hold our current model without refreshing our page. Then we need to check whether we have our selected product, because if we don't, we do not have anything to load. So if we do not have a mount or we do not have a selected product, we want to return and otherwise proceed. Then let's go to our load function over here and wrap it into a function. So create a const called load model equal to, as a parameter, we will pass our model CRC of type string. And as a result, we want to load this model. So in this curly braces, you can cut this loader and paste it in here, then replace this link to our model CRC. Also, we need firstly to delete our current model. So for example, if we already loaded some model and it appears on our website and the user clicks another product to see, we want to delete the previous model. So to do that, we need to add an if statement. If our model ref current, so if we have something in our model ref, then we want scene remove, and in brackets we need to specify our model. So model ref dot current, and otherwise we need to load this model. After this, set a scale, set a position, also add it to a scene, and then we need to set our model ref.current to our model over here. And then we need to call this function, So let's write load model, and inside we need to give selected product dot model crc. Okay, after this we need to add to our use effect the dependency array in order to refresh our Three.js code when we change our selected product. And finally, to make it work, we need to add cleanup function. So let's write return. After this, open a brackets, then add an arrow, and in curly braces, we need to write if we have our mount. In this case, we need to remove our render from the mount. So mount.remove child, and inside let's write render.dom element like this. So now we can save it and go to our site, refresh, and now we can change our models over here. So next we need to add an animation and finally make these keyboards interactable. So let's go back, and inside, after we load our model, we can modify our animate function. So let's go and delete this loop over here. And now let's go inside animate function. So first what we need to do is to add a function called request animation frame, and inside we need to recall this animate function. After this, let's add some constants in the top. So create a const called gravity equal to 0.2. After this, create a const called bounce factor equal to 0.3. Then we have const ground y equal to 0. And after this, we need to add two let values. So we need to create a velocity by y equal to 0 and set a let is bouncing equal to false. So the logic of our animation is pretty simple. First, we need to place our object above the ground. So this would be a ground, and this our keyboard. Then we start giving it negative velocity, so it starts falling. And then when the object hits the ground, we need to check. So if it hits the ground, then we multiply this velocity by minus bouncing factor, and that's what makes our objects go in the other direction. So we basically change our velocity here and repeat the cycle. And that's why we fall, then go up, fall, but every time this movement is smaller and smaller and smaller. So now we can return and code it. So after you request animation frame, you need to write an if, and inside we need to check whether we have our model ref.current. And if we do, we need to start increasing our velocity. So velocity by y minus equal our gravity. So we actually start moving our object from the top to the ground. Then we need to set this velocity to the object. So model ref.current.position.y plus equal to our velocity by y. And after this, we need to check whether we already hit the ground. So if our model ref.current.position by y less or equal than our ground level, then we need to set our position to a ground level. So change it to equal, and then multiply our velocity by negative bounce factor. So write that velocity by y multiplied equal to minus bounce factor. And after this, let's set is bouncing to true. If else, then we need just to set is bouncing to false. And after this, create one more if statement. So if our mass.abs of velocity by y less than 0.01 and we bouncing, then we need to finish our movement and set our velocity by y to 0. So now just call this function. So after you create it, write animate. And the last thing what we need to do is actually firstly place our model above our ground. So to do that, we need to find our model position and set y position to 12, for example. So now let's save, go to our website and refresh. So now we have our following animation in place. And finally, what we need to do is to add an interaction. So let's go back. Here we can go and under our animate function, create a new one. So let's write const and function called handle mouse move. And as parameter, we will give event of type mouse event. And inside function, we need firstly check whether we have our current model. So if model ref dot current is exist, then we can proceed and firstly calculate the x position of our cursor. So create a const called mouse x and it will be equal to brackets and inside let's write event dot client x divided by window dot inner width, then multiplied by 2 and minus 1. So with this expression we get the position of our cursor by x-axis. And then we need to set the rotation for our model. So let's write model ref dot current dot rotation by y-axis equal to our mouse x multiplied by pi value, so mass dot pi. And then to make this work we need to add an event listener. So under this let's write mount dot add event listener and inside our trigger will be mouse move. And then we need to call the function called handle mouse move. Like this, and finally we need to add a cleanup function for this event listener. So copy and paste it in this return cleanup function and replace this add by remove. So now we can save it and go to our website, refresh it, and now we able to rotate our keyboard. But I want to use more advanced approach and enable rotation only when user clicks and holds it, and when it's released, the keyboard should automatically come back to its original position. And also when we go out this box, this 3D renderer, I also want it to automatically come back to its original position. So to do that, we need to return. And here, let's go to the top and add one more useRef. So in here, create a const called isMouseDown ref, and it would be equal to our useRef. Set the type of boolean, and as default value, set false. Then let's go back. And firstly, what we need to do is to modify this if over here. So we need not only that model exists, but so the mouse was down. So add 2 ampersands and let's write isMouseDown dot current like this. Then we can save it and create one more function below. So create a const called handle mouse down. And inside it will set our isMouseDown ref.current to true. So like this. Then we need to add event listener to trigger this function. So copy this event listener, paste it below, then change this trigger to mouse down. And as a function, we need to pass handle mouse down. And also, let's add this remove event listener as well. So replace this add with remove. Then we need to create one more function. So create a const called handle interaction end, and inside this function set our isMouseDownRef to false. So set it to false. And then we need to rotate our model to its original position. So to do that, we need to create one more function inside this one. So create a const animate rotation back. And inside this function, first what we need to check whether we have our model. So let's write model ref.current. If it exists, then inside we need to get our current model rotation. To do that, create a const called model rotation equal to our model ref.current.rotation.y. After this, we need to check whether our mass.apps of our model rotation is more than 0.01. And if it is, then we need to start rotating our model back. How are we going to do this? We need to get our model ref current rotation by y and start changing it. So we're going to decreasing it with every frame by our model rotation multiplied by 0.01. So this will ensure our smooth rotation to its original position. And then we need to request this animation. To do this, we need to request our animation frame by animate rotation back. Like this. And then, if our mass apps by model rotation less or equal than this value, then we need to set our rotation to 0. So let's write else, and inside you can just copy this, paste it in here, and just write equal to 0. With that done, we need to call this function over here. So copy its name, go under this function, and paste it, add a bracket and semicolon. Then we need to add two more add event listeners, so you can copy this one and paste it. Then let's replace this mouse down by mouse up. And also, as a function, we need to call this handle interaction end. So copy this name, paste it over here, and now copy this one more time, paste it underneath. And as trigger, we will use mouse leave. So when we leave our mount box, then we also will call our handle interaction end function. And last, what we need to do here is to add two remove event listeners. So let's copy and paste, then copy this remove, Ctrl D this adds, and save. So now we can refresh, then scroll a bit. And now I can't move this model. But if I click and hold, then I can. Also, if I release my mouse, the model automatically comes back to its original position. And if I, for example, click and hold it, then rotate it, and go out of our container, it also automatically comes back to its original position. So we learned how to create a scene, how to create a render, how to add a camera model and also light to our scene, how to add this beautiful changing animation, how to add an interaction, and how to add this beautiful comeback animation. But this is not the end of this course. Next, what we need to do is to add these two beautiful 3D models to our sales section. So let me also refresh. And as you can see, they also have some animation in place. And initially, I wanted to add these two models using also vanilla Three.js. But then I realized it would be better to create them using React 3 Fiber. It's a powerful React-based framework for Three.js that simplifies working with 3D scenes and models. And while Three.js gives you a great flexibility to make your page unique, and this is why we started with it, there are times when you just need to add a model to your React or Next.js site without complex animations or interactions. So in such cases, React 3 Fiber is much simpler and more efficient to use. So now let's head out to our sale.txt and implement it. And by the way, if you are interested in using vanilla Three.js for this page as well, I have placed the code in our GitHub repository, so you can explore this approach as well. So first what we need to do here actually is to install a few dependencies. So let's shut down our terminal and then let's write npm install. And first what we need to install is React 3 Fiber. So let's write @react 3, then backslash and fiber. And also we need to install the React Spring for animations. So it's probably already installed with our Three.js, but anyway we can write React Spring and also add a backslash and 3, like this. And if you wanted to use the same versions as I do, then you can add for Spring this value over here, and for the Fiber, you can add this value over here. So with it done, click Enter and wait a bit until it installs. So we successfully installed these two packages. Now you can write npm run dev one more time to run our page, and then let's go to our sale. So first what we need to do in our sale component is to create our mount ref. So create a const called mount ref equal to our use ref and import it from React, and as a default value set it null. After this we need to create one more constant called isInView, and it will be equal to use InView, and inside brackets we need to specify two parameters. First, we need to give it a ref, so write mount ref, and the second, in curly braces, we need to write once true. So this value will trigger our animation only once when we firstly see our mount ref inside. So after this, we need to create two more constants. So create a const called left model initial position. So left model initial position. Add a type of vector. So we need to write an array of numbers. Number, then one more, and one more. And this constant will be equal to array of -2, 0, and 0. So what we actually doing is creating the position of our left model and give it an array of values of X position, Y position, and Z position. Next, we need to create one more const called right model initial position. So copy this one and replace this with right, and also remove this minus over here. Next, we need to create two more constants, so just copy this two, paste underneath, and rename it to left model final position and right model final position. So Ctrl D and change it to final, like this. And then we need to replace these values in array. So let's replace 2 with -3.1, and also as Y position we need to set -1.3, like this. And also here we need to set 2.9 and 0.8, like this. And the last constant we need to create here called model rotation. So create a const called model rotation and give it a type of array with 3 numbers. So copy this and paste it in here, and it would be equal to array of 3 values. So what we need to give it? As you remember, our model initially have this position, but we need to place it a little bit differently. So first we need to rotate it by x-axis by 90 degrees. Then we need to rotate it by y-axis by 80 degrees, and then a little bit rotate by that axis. So we can go back, and we need to give these numbers in radians. So we need to write mass.pi divided by 2. So it's rotation by x-axis, and this value actually equals to 90 degrees, or a half of pi. After this, we need to write mass.pi divided by 180 and multiply it by 80. So it's 80 degrees rotation by y. And the last one, so we can copy this, paste in here, and replace this 80 by 10. So minus 10 rotation by that axis. After this, we need to create one more div in the top of the parent div. And firstly, what we can do is to add a ref to this div equal to our mount ref. With that done, let's add a class name equal to position absolute. After this, we have width equal to full, then height equal to screen. But in large screens, we want height equal to 150 VH. Also, we want top equal to 0. Then in medium screen size, we want top equal to minus 60 VH. And finally, set a left to 0, like this. And inside this div, we need to create a canvas. So let's write canvas and import it from the React 3 fiber. Then close it. And inside canvas, we need to create a camera. So let's write a camera. And in this brackets, we need firstly to give the position of the camera. So let's open one more brackets and let's write position. So position should be equal to array of 3 values, and let's set it to 0 by x-axis, then 0 by y-axis, and 5 by z-axis. After this, we need to specify the angle of the camera. So let's write FOV equal to 75. If you remember, we have the same in our vanilla JS. So here it is. After this, we need to add a class name to this Canva. So let's write width equal to full and height equal to full. Nothing special in here. And to remove this error over here, we need to add a light. So let's import our ambient light like this. And it's self-closing component, but we need to specify the intensity. So let's write intensity equal to 0.5. And after this ambient light, let's add directional light. So import directional light, also self-closing component. Firstly, specify a position. So position equal to array of 3 values of 5, then 5 and 5. And also let's add intensity to 3, like this. Now we can copy this directional light and paste it one more time. But replace this position with -5, like this. Then we need to check whether we in view. So open the curly braces and let's write is in view, like this. And if it is, then we need to render our model. So let's render model. And now we need to go and create a separate component called model for this. So let's go and in the top, create a const called model, and it will be equal to brackets, and then it will return something. Let's set it just empty tag for now. So our model will take some parameters, and to handle this, we need to create an interface. So create an interface called model props. And inside this interface, we need firstly to specify the URL of our model, where we can find it. So let's write URL of type string. Then we need to specify the initial position of our model. So let's write initial position of type our numbers array. So just copy this and paste it in here. Then you can just copy this one more time, paste underneath, and replace this with final position, like this. And final parameter which we need to pass is rotation. So write rotation and add a type of numbers array, like this. Then let's import all these values into our model. So we have URL, then initial position, then final position, and finally we have rotation, like this, and all of this of type model props. Then firstly what we need to do in our model is to load our model. So create a const called model, and it will be equal to use loader, like this. And as a type of a loader, we need to use gltf loader. As you can remember, we used the same in our Three.js. So import our gltf loader, like this. And the second parameter should be URL to our model, like this. After this, we need to create model ref. So create a const called model ref, and it will be equal to use ref. We add a type a little bit later and specify the default value to null. So what is a type? The type should be Three.mesh, but we need to import Three.js. So go to your preview, copy this line over here, or you can rewrite it and paste in here. Then we can write Three.mesh, like this. In this ref model, we will be storing our model. And after this, we need to go to the top and add a use client, because use ref only can be used in use client component. So use client, like this. And then we need to go back and in this return create a mesh. So what is a mesh? Mesh is a wrapper which allows us to rotate, scale, set a position of our model. And inside we need to give a few parameters for this. So set a ref to our model ref, like this. After this, we need to give a position of our final position for now. After this, let's set a rotation to our rotation. And finally, let's add a scale equal to array of 3 values, 0.65, also 0.65 and 0.65, like this. And inside mesh, to render our model, we need to create a primitive. So create a primitive. It's self-closing component. And as a parameter, we need to write object equal to our model.scene, like this. So after this, we need to go down to our sail component and in here add necessary parameters for the model. So first would be URL equal to. You can go to products.tsx and copy this model CRC over here. So like this, and paste it in here. After this, initial position equal to our left model initial position. Then final position will be our left model final position, and finally rotation equal to our model rotation, like this. Then we need to add a right model. So we need to wrap this into empty tag. Just cut it and paste it underneath. and then copy this model over here and paste it one more time. So let's replace this URL with 3, then initial position set to right model, the same for final position, set it to right, and rotation stays the same. So now we can save, go back to our site, refresh it, and scroll to the bottom. So now we added these two models, but we need to add an animation as well. So to do that, we need to go to our model component and create one more const. So create one more const, and let's firstly write it, and then I explain what it is. So in curly braces, let's write position, like this, and then equal to useSpring, and import it from React Spring, not Framer Motion. And then open a curly braces, and inside we need to specify a few parameters. But firstly, the useSpring is a hook from React Spring library used to create animations for values over time, like position, opacity, and etc. So we need to animate by position, and that's why we write here position. If we need to animate also by opacity, so you can specify this as well. And then inside we need from. So from which position we going to move. From, and inside curly braces, let's write position, and then give it the value of our initial position. Then we need to, so our position should be final position, like this. Then we need to give a config. And inside these brackets, we need to give a lot of values, but for now we only will be using duration equal to 1500, and also set easing equal to easings imported from React Spring, and dot is in out cubic, like this. And finally, I wanted to add a delay, so let's set it to 200. And now we need a bit modify our mesh to animated mesh. So let's add an A, like this, and also like this. And also we need to import it from our React Spring. So in here, let's write A, like this. And we need to replace this initial position with position. So now we can save it and go back to our website. And here our animation in place. So we can refresh it one more time to see it. It's beautiful. But there are one more topic we need to consider, and it's mobile responsiveness. So the best practice for using Three.js on mobile is to avoid it where possible and replace 3D elements with images of 3D objects. But if you need to use these 3D models, choose simpler ones and limit the number of models used. Additionally, it's great to have progress loaders for users with slower internet connections, and also avoid heavy animations and interactions that may negatively impact the user experience, as mobile devices have less computing power than desktops. Also, have in mind that event listeners for mobile is a bit different from desktop, but about this in a minute. So we really can't optimize these two models of keyboards over here, using such software as a Blender and similar ones, and this keyboard takes 6.5 MB of space, which is a lot of space because the great image can take only up to 2 MB of space, and if optimized one, then up to 0.5 MB. So this one model likes certain images. So it's great to replace in mobile this keyboard with an images, which you can do by yourself with logic we create in a minute. But what I wanted to do is to reduce the number of models. So when we go to our example, go to inspect, and then go to mobile view, then refresh in order to re-render our models, and scroll to the bottom, you can see that we have only one model here. So to do this, let's go to our sail.tsx. First, what we can do here for mobile responsiveness is to create a use state. So create a const, and inside isMobile, and set isMobile equal to our use state, import it from React. And as a default value, set it to false. So then we need to add a use effect. So use effect, like this. And inside we need to create a function. So create a function called handle resize. And inside, firstly, we need to check whether we have our window, because in server-side rendering, we do not have our window yet, and we will get an error. So if type of window not equal to undefined, then we can proceed and set isMobile to the value of if our window dot inner width less than 768. This will be our mobile view. Then we need to call this function, so called handle resize. And after this, we need to give it event listener. So if window dot add event listener, and as a trigger set it to resize, like this. So we need to call this function one more time. And after this, let's add a cleanup function, so return. And inside, let's just copy this add event listener and replace it with remove event listener. Do like this. So now let's go to our right model final position, and in here we need to modify this value a bit. So if our isMobile is true, then we want to have a little bit different values from this. So you can copy, paste it in here, like this. So if it's mobile, then we want 1.5 and also -1, like this. And if it's not mobile, then we have these values. And now we need to go to our canvas, and in here we need to check for mobile. If we in mobile, we do not want to render this left model. So let's open a curly braces, and inside we need to write if it's not mobile, then and only then we need to render this model. So cut it from here and paste it inside, like this. Now we can save it and go back to our site. And in here, if we go to our mobile view, then refresh, you can see that we have only one model in here. Also, if you want to replace this model over here with an image, you can do this as well using isMobile. So if we go back to our sail, and in here, you can just write if mobile, so isMobile, like this. Then we need to render an image inside here, something like this. And if it's not, that we need to render our canvas. So I'm not going to do this right now because I do not have an image, but you got this approach. So next we need to return to our site and to do one more thing. So in here, if we scroll a bit, this model do not move in mobile, because for this we need to use different event listeners and different functions. And if we go to our example site, scroll a bit up, so now here we can move this keyboard over here. So let's implement this logic and go to our preview.tsx. First, what we need to do here is to add a few more userefs. So let's go to the top. And by the way, you can see this weird styles which we written before. So there's also a little bit of mobile responsiveness to ensure that our model have a great sizes for every screen. So in the top, let's just copy this useref over here, paste it below, and rename this mouse to touch, like this. So this actually will do the same as this, but for touch, not mouse. Then we need to create two more userefs. So let's add a const called touch start xref equal to our use ref, and we need to specify the type of number, and also as a default set it to null. So what it will be doing is storing the position of our first touch to screen. Then we need to copy this, paste it underneath, and rename it to touch start rotation ref, like this, so it will store our current rotation of the model. Next, we need to go below and under this handle mouse move, create a function called handle touch start, which will take our event of type touch event like this, and inside, firstly what we need to do is check whether we have our model. So if model ref.current exists, then we need to proceed and firstly set our isTouchDown ref.current to true. After this, we need to capture the touch position by x. Let's write our touch start x ref.current equal to our event dot touches, get the first element dot client x, like this. And finally, set a touch start rotation dot current to our current model rotation. So let's write model ref.current.rotation.y, like this. After this, we need to create one more func. So create a const called handle touch move, which will also take as a parameter our event of type touch event, like this. And inside, first what we need to do is one more time check our model. So if it exists, we need to proceed, but we need to modify this if a little bit and also check if is our touchdown equal to true. So if our touchdown.current equal to true, then we will proceed. So first create a const called touchX, which is equal to our event. You can copy this line over here actually. So event touches 0.client x. And then we need to create one more const called delta x, which will be equal to our touch x minus our touch start x ref.current. So what we actually doing here is to calculating the difference between our new touch and the previous. And finally, we need to set a rotation to our model. So let's write model ref.current.rotation by y equal to our touch start rotation ref.current plus our delta x multiplied by 0.01. So this 0.01 ensures smooth animation. And then one more func we need to create called const handle touch end, which will take nothing, but it will set our isTouchDown ref.current to false, like this. And then we need to add a few event listeners to call these functions. So down here, let's write mount.add event listener. Inside we need to trigger by touch start and call the function called handle touch start. So you can find it in here. Then we can copy this one and paste it 2 more times. So the second will be touch move. And we need to call a function called touch move. And finally, touch end. And call the function called touch end, like this. And also let's add remove event listeners. So copy this and paste in here. Then a little bit of formatting and replace this add with remove, like this. So now we can save, go back to our website, go to our site, refresh it a bit, and try to move our model. So now we can do it, and that's how we add this mobile responsiveness to our site. So we finally finished our course, and to make this site fully functional, I wanted to add a cart, because the most important part of every shop site is a cart, where our user can store his or her choices and then buy your product. So let's go back to our VS Code and close everything we have here. Then let's create a new section. So new file called cart.tsx, and in here initialize this component, like this. Now we need to copy this component and paste underneath one more time. And now let's rename it to cart provider. And also let's do the same but in the top and rename this cart to cart product, like this. Now we can go to our cart provider and firstly create a const equal to is open and set is open, like this, equal to use state, import it from React, and as a default value set it to false. After this, we need to create an interface called cart product. So let's go in the top and here create interface called cart product. And in here, firstly, we need to specify our image CRC of our product of type string. After this, we have a title of type string, then price of type number, and finally quantity of type number, like this. Next, we can create one more interface. So interface, and this time it will be called cart context type. So do like this, and inside we need to specify firstly a function called add to cart. As a parameter, it will take a product of type cart product and it will return void. After this, we have is open of type boolean. Then we have toggle cart. It function to open our cart. So it takes nothing and returns nothing, just toggles our cart. And finally, cart items. It's array of type cart product. That's great. And next what we need to do is create a const called cart context, which is equal to create context imported from React. Let's set a type to cart context type, like this. And inside we need to specify a few values. Then inside we need to write add to cart, then write a signature of the function. After this is open, by default set to false. After this we have toggle cart and add signature of the function. And finally we have cart items. It's an array, like this. And finally what we need to do is create a custom hook called useCart. So create export const called useCart, which is equal to brackets, and then we return useContext imported from React and as a parameter set cart context, like this. So with that done, we need to return to our cart provider and here create one more use state. So create a const and inside let's write cart items, then set cart items, like this, equal to use state and set a type of cart product array and as a default value set an empty array. After this we need to add a use effect. So inside this use effect we will be checking whether we already have some products in our local storage. So import it also, and now we need to create a const called stored cart, which is equal to our local storage dot get item and specifies the name of cart, like this. Then we need to check whether we have something in our stored cart. So if stored cart, then we need to proceed and set our cart items to json.parse and as a parameter give our stored cart, like this. And then let's add one more function called add to cart, which will take as a parameter product of type cart product And first, what we need to do inside this function is to check whether we'll already have this product in our cart. So create a const called existing product equal to cart items dot find, and we need to pass a product, and then check whether our product dot title equal to our product dot title. So if this function found something, so we need to check it if existing product, then we need to return a React hot toast that will say product already in cart. So let's go to the React hot toast website. And here you can see some example of usage, and we need to install this. So shut down your app for a minute and let's write npm install React hot toast. Then you can run it again. So npm run dev like this. Now we need to go to our page.tsx and add toaster in the top from React hot toast like this. So we can save this and close. In here, we can go back to the site, go to emoji, and copy this toast over here. Then paste it inside, and let's replace, firstly let's import this toast, and then replace this good job with product already in cart. Like this. So with that done, we need to add else. So if product do not exist in our cart, then we need to add it. So create a const called new cart, which is equal to array of our previous cart, so cart items. And then we need to add an object which consists from product properties. And also we need to add a quantity equal to 1, like this. After this, we need to set our cart items to our new cart and add this new cart to our local storage. So local storage dot set item, and inside we need to specify the name, the key called cart, and also the value. So let's write JSON dot 25, and inside let's write new cart. And finally, let's write a toast success dot success, which would say product added to a cart. Like this. So after this, we need to create one more function called toggle cart in order to open our cart. In here, let's write const toggle cart, and inside we need to set our is open. I see an error here, so let me check. To set is open to our not is open, like this. So after this, we need to remove this div over here and create cart context dot provider, and inside we need to give a few values. So value, and inside open one more curly braces, and in here let's write add to cart, then we need to pass is open, also toggle cart, and finally cart items, like this. And also we need to give it a props, so it would take children of type children equal to react dot react node, like this. So now we can write as children over here. And now with that done, we need to write one more export. So export, open the curly braces, and inside let's write cart provider, like this. So now let's go to our layout.tsx and wrap our body into this provider. Cart provider, like this, import it and paste it in here, like this. Then format a bit, save, and you can close. So with that done, we need to go to our cart component, and in here first we need to do is to import our use cart. So let's write const, and in curly braces we need to get isOpen, then we need to get toggle cart, and finally cart items, like this, and it's equal to our use cart custom hook. After this, let's create one more use state. So const, and here total. So this use state will be storing the total amount the user needs to pay, and set total, which equal to use state and type of number. And as initial value, let's set it to 0. After this, we need to add a use effect. So import it. Then we need inside calculate our total value when we change our cart items. So let's write a const called new total, which is equal to cart items dot reduce. And first we need to specify a function. So let's open brackets, and inside let's write sum, also product. And then we need to increase our sum by product price multiplied by product quantity, like this, and as an initial value set null. Then, if we changed our cart items, we need to save it to local storage. So let's check whether our cart items dot length more than 0, and if it is, then local storage dot set item, and in brackets let's write cart, and also JSON dot stringify our cart items. And finally, we need to add a dependency array to rerun our use effect on cart items change. And finally, we need to add one more if. So if our isOpen equal to false, then we need to return null, because then we do not need to render our cart, like this. And finally, we can go to this div, and in here create one more div, and inside this div create one more. So in this div we would have our header of the cart. So let me show you how it looks. If we go to our example, close it, then go to our cart. So we have just simple cart with title and close button, also then some products and a total. So with that done, we can close it. And here, firstly, let's add h2, which would say your cart, and let's add a class name to it equal to text to Excel, and also font semi-bold, like this. And after this, we need to import an icon called IO close from our React icons, and also let's add a class name equal to width 6, height 6, and cursor pointer. Also, it's cell closing component, so close it. And we need to add onClick, which will toggle our toggle cart, like this. So now let's add a class name to this div over here, equal to width full, then flex, also items center, justify between, and finally padding equal to 8. And then we need to check whether we have products in our cart. So open a curly braces and write cart items dot length more than 0, And if it is, then we need to render our cart products. So create a div. And otherwise, we need to render a p tag. And inside, we can write there is currently nothing in here. Like this. And also you can add this cool emoji over here. So let's copy it and paste it over here, like this. Also, let's add a class name equal to text slate 400 and also text center. And finally, margin top equal to 32. Now we can save it and go inside this div and create one more div. So inside this div, we need to map through all objects in our cart items. So let's write cart items dot map, and inside let's give product and index. And also we need to create an array of cart product elements. So let's go back to our cart product now and create it. So first what we need to do is to create an interface. You can copy this one, paste here, for example, and rename it to cart product props. Like this. It seems similar to this one, but a little bit later we add a few more things to it. So that's why we created a separate interface for this. So let's import all these values, image.csv, then title. After this we have price. And finally quantity of type of cart product props. Like this. And then inside we can go to this div and inside create one more. So in this div we need to create an image, also title of product and its price. So firstly let's create an image, its self-closing component. So firstly specify crc equal to our image crc. After this we have alt tag equal to our product. Then we have width equal to 128 and also height equal to 128. Also add a class name equal to rounded XL. Like this. After this, we need to create a div. And inside this div, we need firstly to render h3. So in this h3, we need to render our title. Like this. And also let's add a class name to it equal to text large, also font semi-bold, and that's all. After this, create a p tag, and inside we need to render a $sign and price. Like this. So also add a class name equal to text slate 400, and also let's add a class name to this div, which would be equal to flex, then flex column, also justify between, padding x equal to 4, padding y equal to 6, and finally text slate 200, like this. After this div, we need to add a class name to it, which is equal to flex, also flex row, gap equal to 4, but on medium screen size we want gap equal to 8. So with that done, let's create one more div underneath. And in this div, we need to create this plus, minus, and delete functionality over here. So let's do it. First, what we need to do is to create one more div. And in this div, firstly, let's add an icon called far plus. So import it from React icons. Also add a class name to it, equal to width 3, then height equal to 3, and cursor pointer. So it also should have onClick, but we will add it later. Next, you can copy this over here and paste it underneath and rename it to far minus. Import it as well, and between these two icons, we need to render a p tag, which would say quantity. So do like this. Then we need to go to this div and add some class names. So set flex, then flex column, but in medium screen size we want flex row. Also set gap y equal to 2, then gap x equal to 4, then items center, background tone 800, padding x equal to 2, padding y equal to 3, but in medium screen size we want padding y equal to 1, and in medium screen size we want padding x equal to 3. And finally, let's write rounded full, like this. So with that done, we need to go out this div, and under this div, let's add one more icon called fat trash, like this. Also, let's add a class name inside equal to width 3, height 3, and also cursor pointer. We also add onClick to this icon a little bit later. Now let's add a class name to this parent div. So let's add a flex, then flex row. After this, gap equal to 3. In medium screen size we want gap equal to 6. Then items center. The last thing we need to do here is to go to the top and add a class name to this div over here. Set height to 32, also flex, then flex row. After this, justify between, like this, and padding right set to 3, but in medium screen size and more we want padding right equal to 8. Also background tone set to 950, and also rounded XL, like this. So with that done, now we can return and add necessary properties to our card product. So let's add a key equal to index. After this we have image CRC equal to our product dot image CRC. Then we have a title equal to our product dot title. Then we have a price equal to product price. And finally we have quantity equal to product dot quantity. So with that done, we need to go to this div, add a class name equal to height equal to full. Then in medium screen size we want height equal to 96. Then flex, also flex column, gap y equal to 4, and set overflow by y to auto, like this. Then under this div we need to create one more. So create a div, and inside this div we need to render our total value and pay button. So let's add a p tag, and inside this p tag we need to write total, then add a $sign, and in curly braces we need to specify our total dot to fixed 2, like this. And also let's add a class name to this p tag. So let's write text large, after this font semi-bold, then text slate 300. After this we need to add a div, and inside this div we need to render a pay. So now let's add a class name to it equal to width 36, then flex, also flex column, then items center. After this, padding y equal to 3, then rounded XL, font semi-bold, then set background to gradient to bottom right, then from rows 400 to fuchsia 700, like this. Then let's add a class name to this div over here. So it would be equal to width full. Then in medium screen size we want width 52. Then set flex, flex row, but in medium screen size we want flex column. Then items center. After this, set justify between. Also set border top 2. In medium screen size, we want border top 0. Also in medium screen size, we want border left 2 and set border slate 200. Then add padding y equal to 6. In medium screen size, we want padding y equal to 0. And finally, in medium screen size, set padding x to 8. Like this. After this, let's add class name to this div, which is equal to width full. After this, height equal to max. Then flex, also flex column. Then in medium screen size, we want flex row. After this, set padding to 4. In medium screen size, we want padding to 12 and gap set to 8. And finally, after this, we need to add 2 more class names over here. First, let's add here class name equal to width full, then max width equal to 4XL, height equal to full, but in medium screen size we want height be equal to 600 pixels. Then set background to stone 800, then rounded 3XL, and set overflow to hidden. Like this. And the last class name, position fixed. After this, height equal to screen, width equal to screen, then top set to 0, left set to 0, flex, items center, justify center, set the Z index to 50, and finally set a background stone 850 and set the opacity to 75, like this. So with that done, we can go to our navbar.tsx and here import our toggle card. So const toggle card equal to use card hook, and now we need to find this shopping cart. And over here, let's write onClick and let's write toggle cart. Now we can go to our website and see what we got. So let's close this, refresh. And we forgot to add a use client in our cart. So let's go back and do this because we're using use state, use effect. So use client. And also while we're here, let's go to our navbar and add use client here as well. So use client. And also it seems that we forgot to add it to our page.tsx. So let's add it like this. Now you can save and let's go and see what we got. So if we click our cart over here, so let's refresh, click our cart, and now we have our cart in place, and currently we do not have anything in here. So let's add product functionality. To do this, go to product cart, so find it over here, and in here we need to import our add product. So create a const, and in curly braces, let's write add to cart equal to use cart hook. And also we need to add a function called handle by, which will run our add to cart function with some parameters. So let's set it to image.crc, then title, also price, and set a quantity to 1, like this. And now we need to add a use client in the top, and also go to this div over here when we render our buy, add onClick, and inside this curly braces we need to call handle by. So like this. Now let's go and try to add some product. If we refresh, most likely we get an error because I forgot to add empty dependency array in our use effect in our card provider. So let's do like this. Then save and go see what we got. So if we refresh, then go and, for example, buy this keyboard, the product added to a cart, and now we can see it, we have it. But we do not have this border over here, and we do not calculate this total over here. So let's go back. Go to our cart, and in here, I made a little mistake. And also, what's strange, we do not render our total. So apparently I forgot to set total to new total. And now it should work as expected. So we can add, for example, one more and go to our cart, and now we have price, we have this line over here, and we have our products. And finally, what we need to do is to add this plus, minus, and delete functionality. So let's go back. And for this, we need to go to our card provider and add 3 more functions: for adding product, for removing product, and for deleting product. So under this add to cart, let's create one more const called handle add product. And as a parameter, it would take index of the product in our cart, so index of type number. And inside, first we need to do is to create our updated cart. So let's create a const called updated cart equal to cart items dot map, and then inside we need to give it an item and index. After this, we need to check whether our index equal to our index, and if it is, then we need to create an object which consists all properties of item and also increase the number of the quantity by 1. So add a quantity equal to item.quantity plus 1, like this. And in other way, we need to return the item by itself without any changing. Next, we need to set our cart items to our updated cart. And finally, we need to push everything to our local storage. So you can copy this, paste it in here, and replace this new cart with our updated cart. So do like this. After this, we need to copy this function and paste it 2 more times. Then we need to rename this add by remove, like this. And in here, we need to not only check by index, but also check whether our item.quantity more than 1. And if it is, then we need to remove 1 product. And this stays the same. And finally, we need to handle delete our product. So let's delete everything we have here. And now we need to use a function called filter. And inside, we need to give item and our index. And then we need to get all products for which our index not equal to index, like this. So now we can save it. Also, we need to add this 3 function to our card context provider. So let's copy this, paste it in here, then also paste it 2 more times, then rename this to add, then remove, like this. Now we can copy this over here, go to our card component, and in here we need to import this as well. And to remove any errors, we need to go to our card context and paste this in here. Then we need to copy this function signature and paste in here. After this, we need to copy this 1 more time, and in our card context type, we need to write index of type number. Then you can copy this as well and paste here and here, and we need to return void like this. And after this, we need to add a few functions to this interface called card product props. So on add, this function takes nothing and returns nothing, but it will trigger our handle add product. So now you can copy, paste it 2 more times, on remove, and on delete. Like this. Now we need to add these values over here, on add, on remove, and on delete, like this. And now we need to set on clicks. So on far plus, we need to add on click, which will trigger on add, like this. Then we can copy this as well, paste it in here, but replace it with on remove, and finally on delete for the trash. And now the last thing we need to do is to add this function to our card product. So let's add on add equal to curly braces, and inside we need to give this arrow function which will call our handle add product and add a type of index. Then we need to copy this over here, paste it, and then replace this add with remove. And finally, we need to paste it 1 more time and replace this add with delete. Like this. So now we can save it, go to our website and try it. So now we can increase the number, then we can decrease it. Also, our total is changing. Also, we can delete the product, and let's close and refresh, see what we got. So our product stays in place. So we created our card component, and also it's mobile responsive. So if you go to mobile, refresh, then you also see that we have this over here. So with that done, we finally created our site, learned the basics of Three.js, and now the only thing left is to add a payment system and deploy our site to Vercel. I am excited to tell you that I am developing my personal platform, and I would really glad if you help me test it out. So I placed a video about adding a payment system over there, and it's absolutely for free. You can find the link in the description. But if you do not need a payment system, we can proceed and deploy our site to Vercel. For this, firstly we need to go to our GitHub. If you do not have an account, then create it, then go to your repositories tab, or you can find it over here. Then create a new repository and give it a name, for example, Shop with Products 3D Preview, or you can write whatever you want. Then we do not need a description, click Public and create repository, like this. Then we can go and copy these 4 last commands over here. Then come back to our VS Code. And in here, firstly, let's stop our program from running. So Ctrl+C or Command+C. And now we need to write git init, like this. Then git add, dot. And finally, you can paste everything you copied. If this didn't work for you, then you need to paste every command at a time. But if not, click Enter, and we successfully pushed all of our files to the GitHub. Now we can come back over here, refresh, and as you can see, we have our files in our GitHub repository. Now we need to go to the Vercel, so type Vercel over here, go to this first site, log in or sign up. If you do not have an account, I will log in, for example, with GitHub, a few seconds. And now we in the central dashboard, and you need to click this import project. So click import, then you need to connect your GitHub if you hadn't done it yet. So just click add a GitHub account and it will guide you through all steps. Then choose your GitHub repository. For example, as you can see, this imported 1 minute ago. So click import. Then you can set everything as default and click deploy. Then we need to wait a bit, so the Vercel will build our program and see whether there are any errors in it. So I will pause and return when it's done, and if there will be some errors, we will fix them together. So it takes about 1 minute, and as you can see, we successfully deployed our project. We can go to the dashboard and it's ready to appear on a web, but you can click this domain over here and go to your site in the internet. So now it's not on localhost, and you can share with friends and add it to your portfolio. Let's see what we got over there. So let's click it, and we have our model. It can take a bit longer to load our model, depends on the internet, but overall the quality is great. So these models are here as well. And I believe we finished this project. So this was a great journey, and I hope to meet you in the next video. Bye.